Welcome back, everybody. We are diving deep today, all about swallows. I know a lot of you have written in wanting to know more about these guys, so we're going to try to cover as much as we can.
Yeah, these are really cool birds.
And we'll talk about how they've adapted to survive in their environment.
It's amazing what we can learn from them about adaptation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just look at their diet, for example.
Right.
Swallows have a more positive reputation than some birds, like sparrows, because they pretty much only eat insects.
Yeah, they're like natural pest control.
Right.
And I guess that's why people don't mind those big nests they build
Yeah.
under their eaves.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like having a front row seat
It is.
to their little family dramas.
It really is.
It's really fun to watch them.
Yeah, and many swallows even go back to the same nests year after year.
Oh, wow.
They exhibit a strong attachment to their breeding sites.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
You know, we just say swallows, but there are actually tons of different kinds, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are about 90 species of swallows all over the world.
Wow.
But for this deep dive, we'll focus mostly on the barn swallow,
Okay.
the one you're most likely to see,
Yeah,
the one most associated with humans.
that makes sense. I've got to admit, I sometimes mix up swallows with swifts.
Yeah.
How can you tell them apart?
So they might seem similar when you see them flying around, but they're not actually closely related at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, swifts belong to a completely different order of birds.
Wow.
And also, just to clear up a common misconception,
Okay.
those edible birds' nests that you hear about,
Right.
those are from swifts, not swallows.
Okay, got it. So what does a barn swallow look like? How can we tell it apart?
So imagine a bird
Okay.
with sleek, iridescent feathers.
Oh, cool.
A shiny steel blue to black on its back,
Uh-huh.
with white or yellowish underparts. But the most distinctive feature is their tail.
Yeah.
They have a deeply forked tail,
Right.
that classic swallowtail shape.
You know, it's funny because that swallowtail shape,
Yeah.
I mean, we have tuxedo jackets.
Right.
And then you have certain butterflies.
The swallowtail butterfly.
Yeah, and even tools
Yeah.
shaped like a swallowtail.
Yeah. It's really captured the imagination across cultures.
Yeah, definitely.
But that tail shape is not just for looks.
Yeah.
It plays a crucial role in their amazing ability to fly.
Wow.
They're very agile in the air.
So how big are they compared to other birds we see, like sparrows?
They're a little bigger than sparrows, but
Right.
much more slender
Yeah.
and aerodynamic,
Right.
especially with that bigger wingspan.
When I see them flying around, they look so light and maneuverable.
They are remarkably lightweight.
Okay.
They only weigh about 20 grams,
Wow.
less than an ounce.
Wow.
And this, combined with their powerful wings, makes
Yeah.
them really good at flying.
So they're great flyers.
Yeah.
But how do they stack up against other birds that hunt insects in the air?
So think about dragonflies.
Okay.
They're incredibly agile, but swallows have refined those aerial skills to a crazy high level.
Wow.
They're like the acrobats of the bird world.
Wow. So what's the secret to their skill? I mean, their wings must be a big part of it.
Definitely their wings are long and pointed, and with that deeply forked tail.
Yeah.
Remember when we talked about nightjars?
Yeah.
They're sometimes called nocturnal swallows
Yeah.
because of their wing structure.
Right, those nightjars are amazing flyers, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Swallows are so adapted to life in the air
Okay.
that they barely ever come down to the ground except to nest.
Wow.
They do almost everything in the air.
Seriously.
Yeah, they drink, they bathe, they even gather stuff for their nests while they're flying.
Wow. I've always been so impressed by how they just move through the air.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched them snatch insects right out of the air
Yeah.
while they're flying.
They're really good at that.
How do they do that?
Well, they're masters at hunting in the air,
Uh-huh.
and their flight paths are super unpredictable, so that makes them really good at catching insects.
Makes sense.
And also their wide mouths give them an advantage.
Right. I guess it's not just about the chase.
Nah.
It's about the swallow.
That's right, both swallows and nightjars
Okay.
developed wide gapes over time,
Okay.
so they can scoop up insects more easily.
Interesting.
It's one of the adaptations that makes them so successful.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
What kind of insects are they eating?
They'll eat pretty much any flying insect.
Okay.
Mosquitoes, flies, moths, beetles, even dragonflies and butterflies.
Wow.
They just eat whatever insects are around.
I've seen them in like markets and things.
Yeah.
Like flying around. Are they providing a service there?
Yeah, they help to keep those places
Okay.
relatively free of pests.
Got it.
So they're welcome visitors.
Mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah.
So we've covered their amazing flight and their role as pest control.
Yeah.
But they're also famous for their migration.
Yeah.
For such small birds, it must be really hard.
It is. It's a huge feat.
Have you ever seen those flocks of swallows when they all gather
Oh, yeah.
before they migrate?
It's an amazing spectacle.
I've heard about it, but I've never actually seen it.
Yeah, you should try to see it sometime.
Yeah, I'll have to look out for that.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of swallows
Yeah.
preparing to go south for the winter.
Yeah. It really shows how social they are.
So why do they go through all that trouble?
Well, remember how we talked about swallows being monogamous?
Yeah.
And they go back to the same place to breed every year?
Mm-hmm. They seem really attached to their homes.
They are, and they migrate to make sure they have the best conditions for breeding and
Right.
raising their young.
Okay.
The males usually get there first
Mhm.
to get their territory back from the year before.
Wow. So once they're settled, what happens?
Well, then it's time for nesting
Right.
and raising the next generation.
Yeah.
They lay 4 to 6 eggs at a time,
Okay.
and they can raise 2 to 3 broods each year.
Wow. That's a lot of baby birds.
It is, and both parents share the work of feeding them.
I bet they're busy keeping all those baby birds fed.
Swallows have been seen feeding their chicks over 180 times a day.
Really?
Yeah, talk about dedicated parents.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
With all that feeding, there must be a lot of, waste.
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Swallows have developed a pretty remarkable way to deal with their chicks' droppings.
Okay.
They actually catch them before they can fall into the nest.
Wait a minute. They catch poop in midair.
That's right.
That's incredible. Why do they do that?
They do that to keep the nests clean and sanitary
Oh, wow.
for the chicks.
Okay.
It might seem a little strange, but it's important for raising healthy offspring.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's officially the most surprising bird fact I've learned today.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the chicks grow up and eventually they learn to fly.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Then they start getting ready for that big migration south.
Yeah.
But that first journey is really dangerous for young birds.
All right, we talked about how hard migration is.
Yeah.
But for the young ones, it must be even tougher.
It is, and unfortunately only about 10% of them make it through their first migration.
Wow, that's really sad.
It is. It's a harsh reality of nature.
So they go from their little family units
Yeah.
to those massive flocks we talked about.
Exactly. Once they get to their wintering grounds,
Yeah.
their social situation changes again.
Okay.
They don't need to nest or raise young anymore.
Right.
So they live in these huge flocks, sometimes hundreds of thousands of birds.
Wow.
It's a completely different way of being social than when they're breeding.
So from family to these huge gatherings,
Yeah,
their social lives are really dynamic.
they are.
I bet there are advantages to being in a large flock like that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's safer, of course, because there are more birds to watch out for predators.
Right.
But it's also a great way to share information.
How interesting.
The more experienced birds can help the younger ones to learn about where to find food and what to avoid.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like a big information network
Yeah.
up in the air.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a great example of how they work together to survive.
So they're not just surviving, but actually thriving
Yeah.
by
Mhm.
cooperating.
That's right.
That's a good lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've explored their amazing flying,
Yeah.
their dedication to their babies,
Yeah.
and their impressive migrations.
Right.
But we can't forget about those famous mud nests.
Oh, yeah. The mud nest.
They're a big part of what makes swallows so special.
Yeah, but it's important to remember that not every kind of swallow builds those nests.
Oh, really?
No, some swallows, like the bank swallow, they
Huh.
dig burrows.
Right.
And others, like the tree swallow,
Yeah.
they use cavities that are already there.
Oh, interesting.
So there's a lot of variety even within one family of birds.
Yeah, and I guess all of those different adaptations are tied to the environment they live in.
Exactly.
It's amazing how they've adapted to survive in different places.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so we've talked about those mud nests, but not every swallow builds them.
Well-
Some species, like the bank swallow, they make burrows,
Okay.
and others, like the tree swallow,
Yeah.
they use cavities that already exist, like in trees or something.
Oh, interesting.
So you can see how their adaptations are connected to their environment.
Yeah, totally. It's amazing how they've adapted to all these different places.
Exactly. Now we've talked a lot about their physical adaptations.
Yeah, their wings and that forked tail and their wide mouths
Right.
for catching bugs.
Exactly. But their behavior is also super important for their survival.
That's true. Could you give me an example?
Sure, their feeding habits are a good one.
Okay.
We talked about how they fly erratically.
Right. It's like they're reading the insect's minds or something.
Yeah, well, they've been doing this for millions of years, so they've gotten pretty good at it.
Yeah.
They've evolved to take advantage of the way their prey flies.
So their behaviors are totally tuned to their environment.
Exactly, and that's not the only example. Their nesting behavior also shows how smart and adaptable they are. Like those mud nests we talked about.
Yeah.
They're not just thrown together.
Right.
They're super carefully constructed and placed to protect them from weather and predators.
It's amazing how strong they are. I mean, they're made of mud.
I know, right? It's really a testament to their building skills.
Yeah.
And that special saliva they have that acts like cement.
Right.
And the shape of the nest, too,
Yeah.
that deep cup shape,
Yeah.
helps keep the eggs and chicks safe.
And they're so flexible about where they build them.
Yeah.
I've seen them under bridges, on buildings, even inside barns.
Yeah, they can pretty much make a home anywhere.
Yeah, it seems like it.
And that's been really important for them.
Yeah.
They've learned to use human-made structures to
No.
find safe places to nest.
It's like we accidentally became their landlords.
Kind of, yeah. And it's a good deal for both of us.
Right. We give them a place to live, and they help us control pests.
Exactly. It shows how connected we all are.
It really does.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how much we still don't know about nature,
That's true.
and how animals are always coming up with new ways to survive.
Yeah, speaking of which,
Yeah?
let's talk about their social behavior.
Okay. Those big flocks, they form during migration.
Right.
I want to know more about why they do that.
Yeah, those flocks are more than just a bunch of birds hanging out.
So it's not just about safety in numbers.
Well, that's part of it,
Okay.
but it's also about communication.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Those flocks are like big information networks.
Okay.
They can learn from each other,
Yeah.
like by watching the more experienced birds
Wow.
to see where they find food
Right.
and what to avoid.
Wow. So it's like an airborne school?
Yeah, kind of. They're constantly sharing information
Oh, that's amazing.
about food and predators and even nesting sites.
It's like collective intelligence in action.
Exactly. They're not just surviving, they're thriving because they work together.
That's a great lesson for us, too.
Yeah.
There's power in cooperation.
Definitely. And it's not just about surviving right now. It's
Mhm.
about passing that knowledge on to
Mhm.
the next generation.
To make sure the whole species does well.
Right.
I know, I've always liked watching swallows, but I never realized how complex they are.
Yeah. It's easy to miss the amazing stuff that's happening all around us.
Yeah, that's true.
But when you really look into it,
Yeah.
the natural world is full of amazing things.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate how much we can learn from nature.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about how they survive.
Yeah.
But what about their relationship with us?
Right. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
It's a connection that goes back a long way, and it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, so we've talked about how they survive, but what about the relationship with us?
Right. Let's talk about it's a connection that goes back a long way.
Okay.
And it's pretty fascinating for a long time.
Hmm.
Humans have seen swallows as good omens,
Yeah.
like bringing good luck, prosperity, even magic.
Right, like those sayings about swallows nesting under your eaves being good luck.
Exactly. In many cultures, they represent spring, like a sign of hope and renewal.
Yeah, I can see that.
When they come back every year, it means warmer weather is coming.
Right, and they've also made their way into art and literature, haven't they?
Absolutely. They show up in poems and paintings,
Yeah.
songs and stories. There's just something about them,
Yeah.
their grace and beauty,
Yeah.
and how they're connected to the sky.
Yeah.
It's really captured people's imaginations for a long time.
But it's not just about symbolism, right?
Yeah.
Our relationship with them is also practical.
That's right. Remember how we talked about them eating almost entirely insects?
Yeah.
That makes them super helpful for pest control.
Right.
Farmers have always known that having swallows around
Yeah.
is a good thing.
Helps keep the bugs away.
Exactly. They help keep those pesky insects in check.
That's cool. So we give them safe places to nest,
Yeah.
and they help us manage those insects.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
It really is.
And it reminds us that we're all connected.
Yeah.
What happens to swallows affects us too.
That makes me think about the future for swallows.
Yeah.
We've talked about how adaptable they are,
Mm-hmm.
but the world's changing so fast.
It is.
What kind of challenges do they face?
Well, like a lot of species.
Yeah.
They're facing a lot of challenges.
Like what?
Losing their habitat because of cities and farming and
Yeah.
climate change,
Yeah.
which can mess up their migration patterns
Right.
and even affect how many insects there are for them to eat.
So that's pretty worrying. Is there anything we can do to help?
Luckily, there is
Okay.
supporting groups that protect bird habitats,
Yeah.
reducing our use of pesticides,
Okay.
and even putting up nest boxes can make a difference.
That's good to know.
Yeah, even small things can help.
Right. It's a good reminder that we can have a positive impact
Yeah.
on the world around us.
Definitely the more we understand about these birds,
Yeah.
their lives, their adaptations, their challenges, the better we can help them.
Okay, so we've covered a lot about swallows today.
We have.
What's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
I want them to remember that swallows are more than just pretty birds.
Oh,
They show us how powerful adaptation is,
right.
how important community is,
Yeah.
and how delicate the balance of life is
Yeah.
on our planet.
That's a good way to put it.
By learning about their story, we can learn more about our own place in nature.
That's a really good point. So the next time you see a swallow flying around,
Yeah.
take a minute to think about everything we talked about.
Yeah.
About their journey and their grace and beauty.
And remember, their future depends on us.
It really does.
We need to work together to make sure they're around for a long time.
I agree. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of swallows.
Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about these amazing birds as much as we have.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.